code for I'm just drinking tea while I drive to work. And if I try to fill up my tea, because I empty with my other tea thing, I end up spilling it. So it's spilling tea, literally, while I have a chat. And it's really, I'm going to talk about travel stories. So spilling tea is always about travel stories. And I thought I would follow up from yesterday. So yesterday's travel story was a sweet travel story. Hey Maddie, how you going? Was a sweet travel story, and it was about a story from Finland, actually. This story today is following from that story. It's another sweet story from France and a few other places, actually. It's talking about picnics. So, a lot of people, back in the day, I remember I used to have picnics with my mum and dad all the time because, we didn't have a lot of money. So picnics was something we did. Fanny, do you have picnics very much with your mum and dad or your family? So, picnics are so much fun. You go to the beach on a picnic blanket, get sand everywhere, sand in your food. But, mum would cook a really nice meal. And, yeah, we would have a picnic. Generally, probably on the sand, on grass, probably. And it was quite nice. But then, you get older. You don't want to hang out with your mum and dad anymore. You want to, hang out, you want to hang out with your friends, right? So, you'd go through the teenage years and then you stop having picnics, right? They're not cool anymore, right? Anyway, actually, this story goes further. It's Germany with my ex-boyfriend that I don't talk about. I was with him for 10 years and we were in Germany. We were in a place called Rothenburg, Tag. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Germans have a really, thick accent, and Rothenburg. It's a walled village, right? It's a walled village down in Bavaria. And we were in this beautiful, beautiful little town. And how did the story go from France to Germany to my ex-boyfriend? Ugh. Anyway, it's a good story, right? Because when you break up with a boyfriend, this is useful, right? Because it doesn't matter how old you are. When you have a breakup, it's like the end of the world, right? But time, and then everyone says to you, "Oh, there's plenty more fish in the sea," and time, time fixes everything, and it does really. To be honest, I've broken up with this boyfriend 13 years ago now. It's over. Don't even think of him very much at all, except now that I tell travel stories because we were with each other for 10 years, so there was some travel stories in that time. Now there's some fire trucks coming over, so let's just go on the other side of the road a little bit. 2 fire trucks, so hopefully whoever's they're going to, it's okay. I hate seeing fire trucks and stuff like that. It always makes you think, fuck, something bad's happening, especially 2 in a row, right? So anyway, my moral of my story isn't, well, this wasn't the moral of the story, but isn't it interesting that after you break up with a guy, hi Kyle, how you going? After you break up with a person, and hey Em, after you break up with a person, it's like the end of the world, right? But then, after a while, time heals all the wounds, right? And even though that relationship lasted 10 years, and that's a big time. That's the longest relationship I've ever had in my life. Diego and I have been together 8 years, so we're creeping up there. But 10 years is a pretty big time of your life. Depending on how old you are. It could be half your life, kind of thing. That'd be a bit weird. No, quarter of your life. Anyway, but isn't it interesting that I don't think of that relationship now as I don't. If I had to really think about it, I'd probably go, oh yeah, he's an asshole. All these things happened. I wasn't the best person either. There's 2 sides to every story, right? But I'm now thinking about the fun times, and this is one of the fun times. So we're going to change this. We're not in France. We're in Germany. This is spilling the tea, travel story, picnic version in Germany. So yesterday I was telling you about picnics on a train up to Finland in going to Santa's place in the Arctic Circle. And, this is the way that I save money when I travel is by, not buying sandwiches at the train station or, at a cafe because, they can cost a little bit of money, right? And so you might be able to carry around, like I did, cheese. I carried around salami. I carried around bread. And I carried this jar of like, okay, here comes now an ambulance. There's something bad's happened. I hope. So, I'm in 3 lanes of traffic, right? And I really can't go left and I can't go right. But the ambulance is on my right shoulder. So this is when you slow down. Okay, he's passed. Not sure if they're going the same place as the fire engine was going. Anyway, I always kind of put my hand over my heart when I see an ambulance, and I just think, you know what? I hope whoever's in that ambulance or where that ambulance is going, I hope to God, to my angels, to the universe, to anyone that's going to listen, that I hope that person is okay, right? I always think about that when an ambulance comes by. I always think, oh, hand on my heart, I hope they're going to be okay. Anyway, back to my story. Yes, so that's how I save money. So anyway, in Germany, I went on a month holiday with this guy. We were in Europe in February, and the first place we went to was Germany. I had been to Germany before, but not with not with this guy. Oh God, he's not Diego. With this guy, and he'd never traveled to Europe before. He had actually no reason he wanted to go to Europe. He only went because I kind of pounded him. I kind of hassled him, and I wanted to travel, right? And so we went to this place called Rothenburg. Hey, Steve, how you going? I'm sorry if I've missed you in the chat, guys. I'm driving and I can't be, looking at the chat so much. I have to be looking at the road. And when you're doing a horizontal live, the chat just disappears. And there's actually Wayne. I see Wayne, Fabric Studio. Hey, Wayne, how you going? So we're doing a series called Spilling the Tea while I drive to work and drink tea and probably spill it. So we're in Germany. We're in this place called Rothenburg. And I'm not saying it correctly because there is a big accent when you say the German name. Rothenburg Tag, something like that. Anyway, it's a walled village. It's very, very cool. It's on the Romantic Road. It's in Bavaria. So kind of near where they do the Oktoberfest. Okay, Oktoberfest is in Munich, just outside Munich, I believe. I've never been, but outside of Munich. And nearby is a walled village called Rothenburg. And through the day, it is crazy busy. I went there on my first European holiday, backpacking as a solo traveller. And I did a tour this day, and they did a tour of the Romantic Road. It's very romantic. I was by myself on a tour bus with a whole lot of other randoms. And we got to stop off at this little town, Rothenburg. And you only had an hour to stop off. So you literally get there off the bus, run around like crazy, have a little look. And it always had this memory of like, this is a beautiful place. I'd love to come back here, and I'd love to come back and stay overnight, because obviously through the day tourists come. It's a touristy town. So, I just had this vision that, it'd be so beautiful to have picnics and, wine and cheese. But anyway, that's the older version of Dora wanting to have these kind of things, right? As a 24-year-old at the time, I was like, it's a beautiful place. I can't wait to come back one day. No idea if I'd ever come back, right? And fast forward another maybe 10 years later, I'm back with a boyfriend in tow, and we're staying overnight. We stayed 2 nights actually, and it was so beautiful. Like as soon as the tourists go, so about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the tourists go, they get on the tour buses and leave. So then you have all the locals walking around the town, doing their business. And then obviously the people staying overnight, like the tourists, get to kind of really discover without all, the hordes of tourist buses. So it was a really, really good experience. I've got to say, like, if you ever go to a place that is really, really touristy, it's always worth staying overnight because you see a different feel. Like through the day, it's very touristy. There's lots of people. It's a different vibe, right? But at nighttime, or in the evening when the tour buses go, it's a completely different vibe. So this is this town, Rothenburg, and I tell you, it was stunning. Like they had, it was February, right? So it's not Christmas time anymore, but they still had some Christmas, like, I guess, Christmas shops and bakeries with beautiful baking. Like, oh my gosh. German, I don't know what kind of German sweets, I can't remember what they had, but German bakery stuff. And the delis, okay, the delis, beautiful cheese, beautiful salami, and the delis would sell wine and beer, because beer is obviously very popular in Germany. And so we went to the deli and we bought some beer and wine. They gave us them in like paper bags, right? And then we got some salami, we got some cheese, we went to the bakery, got some bread, and we went to the park. And we're sitting on these park benches. We must have looked like total alcos. So, like, when you see a vision of someone sitting on a park bench with like a bottle of, wine disguised with a brown paper bag, it kind of looks like homeless person or alco sitting on, sitting there getting drunk. Anyway, it wasn't that. But we were sitting there with our, I guess it's probably not kosher to drink in public. So that's probably why they gave you the paper bags. I think we did get a cup from somewhere. So I think we're a little bit more stylish. We maybe got a plastic cup from somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, we're sitting on a park bench, having a little picnic. My partner was at the time, my ex, was drinking beer out of the can, obviously, and in the paper bag. I was probably necking some wine, but I think I eventually put it in a glass, so I was a little bit more stylish. But that's a beautiful moment, guys. Like, and that's with a guy that I broke up with 13 years ago, and I don't talk about him much because it wasn't a great breakup. But I'm thinking of that guy in. I'm not thinking of him really. I'm thinking of the experience, and it was a really nice experience. Picnics when you're on your, when you travel is amazing, but it doesn't have to be when you travel, right? You can have picnics on your day trip, on your days. Like for example, today I have, well, I have some extra tea in here, but here we go. Let me just get my extra tea out. I have tea in a thermos. In the back here, I have snacks. Always get snacks. I've got some biltong chili beef. And so this afternoon, on my drive home, I could stop somewhere in a park. In the back, I have a picnic blanket, or I could just sit on a park bench with my, cup of tea and experience what I would do overseas. Like, it doesn't have to be overseas, right? It can be actually in your day-to-day life that you have a picnic. Even though these are travel stories, I'm just kind of bringing it back to the fact that, create the life that you don't need to escape from, right? Like, so much of my life, I have just worked to live. As in, like, I work so I can save money to go on my next holiday. That's pretty much how I've lived my life. I don't have children. Obviously, I have had homes before that I had a mortgage, but there's been times that I haven't had a mortgage, and yeah, I probably spent a lot of my money on travel. A lot of people spend their money on cars, whatever your fancies, right? But travel was always my thing that I spent a lot of my money on, and it felt like I really was escaping my life because I just couldn't wait to get away. Like, for example, I'm going on a travel trip with 3 of my school friends, actually, my high school friends, in September. We're going to Africa, and we're in a group chat, and they cannot wait to get away. 2 of the people are married. They're a couple from high school, and they have 2 children together, but they've never traveled. I think they did 1 trip together. They went to Hawaii, and that was only recently, because obviously they're raising their children. They're raising their children, they're living their jobs, doing those kind of things. But their priority wasn't obviously travel. It was raising their kids. So everyone has different priorities, right? But I see in the chat every day, there's a different message in the Facebook chat, and they can't wait to get away. Like, they're just like, I'm hanging to get away. I'm hanging to get away. Hanging to get away. So that's probably not a really good example because, they haven't done much travel. The other girlfriend, okay, the other girlfriend, let's use her as an example. She has done some travel. She's got a high paying job, that this is interesting, right? She's got a high paying job. She could go anywhere she wanted. She's got lots of dosh, right? She's got a house, no children, no boyfriend, no commitments, so to speak, except her job. Guess what her excuses for not traveling are? The job. Um, but again, this is people. Everyone has different priorities, right? Like, she lost her job for a little while, and I said to her, "Mate, start traveling. Like, you love travel. Go on a trip, mate. Like, you've been working like a dog for years to pay your house off, to do this, do that. You've got the house. What else do you need?" But she's chasing that notoriety. She wants to be the best, the best, the best. I mean, who am I to judge? I've been there. I wanted to be the best at what I was doing, and I was pushing, I was getting more money, moving up the ladders, but then I realized that I was a fat mess. Like, I was an alcoholic. I was drinking a lot of wine to deal with my stress through my days. At the time I wasn't in a very good relationship, so I wasn't feeling good about myself. I drank a lot of alcohol. I didn't look after my body. I treated my body like a piece of shit. And that went on for about 10 years. So I'm really glad that I pulled myself out of it. My friend hasn't done that. Though she's different for her, she's very, very fit because I guess she doesn't have a boyfriend. She just exercises. 4:30 in the morning, she's at the gym. Then she goes to work, goes home, next morning goes to gym. That's her life. And who am I to judge? I mean, she's fit as hell. She's got a great job. She's doing well, financially, all the things. But, she has this opportunity that she could travel and do anything she wanted to do. She could even go work part-time if she wanted to. She doesn't need to work full-time. She doesn't want to. But she's chasing something. And she puts into the chat, "Oh, I can't wait to go on holidays." I'm like, mate, fucking go. You don't need to wait till August. You could have went at Christmas time. You could have went at Easter time. I mean, even if you didn't want to take time off work, there's time around Easter that you actually get, like, you can get a week off work without even, taking into holiday, like your holidays kind of thing, through the public holidays. And she still didn't do it. But you know why? Because she doesn't want to travel by herself. So again, everyone is different. My personality is completely different to her personality. I pushed myself to go outside. Hey, Debbie Sue. I pushed myself to go outside my, comfort zone and travel. And I still do it. Like, for example, I'm going to be honest with you. When I went to Indonesia, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I'm getting more wiser that the world is a scary place. I watch too much news, so don't watch news. But, obviously I met up with Paul in Indonesia, and then obviously he went home. And then then I was traveling for like 2.5 weeks by myself. And you know what? I did have a little anxiety about, oh, where do I go? Should I go there? Oh, I'm by myself. Is it safe? Is it this? Is it that? Oh, can I do it by myself? So I do go. I'm human, right? I'm not, I'm not this person that just goes, oh shit, yeah, let's go. I mean, I do, I do. But on the other side of it, I do have that anxiety. I do have a bit of anxiety about, oh, I'm going by myself. What will people think? Not that I really care what people think, but you do have that little subconscious in your brain that does. I do have that. That sometimes does go. You're going by yourself, Dora. You're 50 something. Is it really cool to be traveling by yourself? And then I go, fuck your stupid brain. Turn that off. Have some tea. You can do anything you want. Don't listen to sometimes your subconscious, right? I know the gut is a different thing. Like, if you have that gut feeling like, oh, don't walk down that alleyway, don't walk down the alleyway, right? But there's a different feeling there. Like, my subconscious is like the anxiety sometime in me goes, is that a good idea? Should you go by yourself? Yeah, so anyway, and then my original story, my original picnic story, let's go back to the picnic story, Dora, was in France last year. So last year I went to a wedding in Lyon. I saw one of my good friends that I used to work with in Mexico get married to her French boyfriend, French fiance, should I say. And they've been living in France for the last 15 years. And I'm going to tell you a lovely, sweet story one day about meeting up with her again in France, but that's another story. But I went to a wedding there in Lyon. After the wedding, actually, no, the day of the wedding, the day of the wedding, I went and had a picnic. I went to a little park and I painted some flowers. And while I was painting the flowers, I poured myself a little wine. I had a croissant. And on the croissant, I had some ham, some cheese, some tomato. I had my little pocket knife. I was cutting my little pocket knife, my tomato up. And I was sitting there, and I remember distinctly sitting there eating that sandwich going, this tastes amazing. Does it taste amazing because I'm sitting in a park in France, having a croissant, having some French wine? Or was it the act of like slowing down, painting? Would I have that same experience having a croissant in Australia with ham and cheese and tomato, painting in a garden or something like that? Probably not, but it'd be a similar experience, right? I mean, don't discount the fact that, to slow down and actually sit there and have a picnic is a beautiful experience. Yes, it's very yummy. So Debbie Sue, I'd love to know, when was the last time you had a picnic? I'd love to know in the chat, when was the last time you actually sat and had a picnic? Because you don't need to be going to France to have a picnic or Germany to have a picnic. You can have a picnic, right? You can have a picnic in your backyard. I carry around in my car a picnic blanket. I have two picnic blankets actually, because sometimes the picnic blanket for me myself, and then a picnic blanket for friends to sit on too. And then I'm not too far away from a thermos with a cup of tea in it. I have my paints in my car. I've been home for 2 weeks. I haven't painted in 2 weeks, guys. It is a work day, so I'm going to work. I wish I was going right now to take you on a picnic. Do you reckon I could call in sick? I mean, I am the boss, so I could call in sick. But no, Dora. Dora has to go to work. Because, unfortunately, I'm in that trap, right? I have to work so I can have the next holiday. Unfortunately, I can't read the chat because it just disappears straight away. And as soon as I get out of the car, I have to go because my client will turn up into the car. Oh, dear. Spilling the tea, literally. Okay, that tea went down the wrong way, guys. So yeah, spilling the tea is really a series of me just telling some travel stories and, kind of reminding myself that as much as I love travel and adventure, you don't actually have to go overseas. You don't need to pay for that flight overseas. I mean, I know that I'm in Australia and, most places, are going to take me like 6 or 7 hours to get to, like Bali was 6 hours. And that costs a lot of money, right? If I flew over to America right now to go see Debbie Sue and have a, adventure with her, I'd love to sit on her swing and have a, let's sit on your swing and have a picnic. Oh my gosh, Debbie Sue. And then we could paint and then you could tell me a story. That would be an amazing little moment. But to have that moment, it's obviously going to cost a lot for a flight. Who's to say that Debbie Sue and I couldn't just do a live together, or not even a live? We could just do a Zoom. So it's just privately between us two. She could be on her swing. I could be on a chair in my garden. I could have my picnic in front of me. Debbie Sue could have a picnic next to her on her swing chair, and we could have a cup of tea both and have a little chat. Actually, Debbie Sue, would you like to do that? And it's not going to be live. It'd just be Zoom, just me and you having a chat. Because I think sometimes, if we do lives, it kind of cheapens the moment. I'm not saying that this is a cheap moment, but sorry, I'm going around in a circle, guys. But when you do a live, I love you guys, okay? I love you guys. But, when you do a live, if you're not driving, you really do have to engage in the conversation, right? So if Debbie, Sue and I were doing a live together, we want to be talking to each other. So anyway, I don't know, it's just a thought, Debbie Sue. I think that'd be really nice to have, maybe we could video a little bit of it and, put on our socials, like on our YouTube channels. Because, you could screen record it on your side, and I could screen record it on my side. I mean, that'd be really nice to actually have, not just Debbie Sue. I could have Steve. You could be in your camper. I could be, somewhere having an adventure in my car. We could have a Zoom or a face chat, or I don't know, a Zoom chat, whatever chat. So many different ways to do like a two-way conversation video now. But we could all be having this little adventure together. I don't know. What do you think about that, guys? Maddie? M? All right. I've turned up to where I need to go. I'm just beeping the horn so she knows I'm here. Hey, Nicholas, how you going? So what do people think about that idea? Now I can just quickly look at the chat. Everyone's saying hello to everyone. Hey, guys, in 20 minutes, 19 minutes, Susan, High Country Homestead, is doing a live, guys. Her normal live. I'm just getting stuff out of my car so that my client can sit in the front car. So what does everyone think about that idea of having a picnic, a Zoom picnic together? Or we could, I don't know, StreamYard. We could do it StreamYard. Oops. Please like. Who is that? Oh, I think it's Amanda. Hey, Amanda. Count me in, Debbie Sue. Is that Debbie Sue? Hold on. Yes, that would be awesome. Oh, Shazza! Hey, Shannon. Shannon. We did have a picnic in the car. Hey, Shannon. So there nothing beats meeting someone face to face, right? Like meeting Shansta was so beautiful. Shannon, how was Africa? Oh, I'm so excited. Obviously, I can't talk for very long. As soon as my client comes, I have to shut the door. But Shannon, let's take over this. Tell us, how was Africa? How was Africa? Obviously, I'm going to Africa in a couple of months or 4 months. We had a great day, Dora. Yes, we did. Nothing beats meeting someone face to face. Like, meeting Paul. Meeting Paul was awesome. Obviously, I got to spend a lot more time with Paul than Shannon, but I'd love to spend more time with Shannon. Oh my God, I had an amazing time. So Shannon's talking about Africa, though she had an amazing time with me too, right? So, rains down in Africa. Okay, I'm not going to sing. Amanda, very funny. The animals were so close, I could touch them. You don't touch animals, but that's good. That's amazing. I bet you got some really good photos. So guys, Shansta's Travels, check out Shansta. That's Shannon. She's about an hour away from Detroit. She's from Wisconsin. No, she's from Michigan. You're from Michigan. Yes, anyway, check out Shansta's Travels. Shansta's Travels, she's obviously been posting a bit of stuff when she went to Australia, when she met up with moi. And we saw the koalas, we saw the kangaroos, we saw the wallabies, we saw the kookaburras, we saw some black swans. You actually sang that song over there. I bet you did. Michigan. Yes, Michigan. Did I get that right? I said Wisconsin first, but then I said Michigan. I think I got it right. Anyway, I try to remember where people are from, but I suffer sometimes. I suffer. So, Kathleen. Hey, Kathleen. Right now I could sing it. Sing it, Amanda. Sing it, Amanda. Okay, how do I sing it? Down the rains down in Africa. Okay, I'm not going to sing. I'm a terrible singer. Just like I dance. So, guys, I'm going to go soon because my client will be here soon, but not yet. Everyone's saying hello to everyone. So, spilling the tea with Dora. I just choked on my tea. I'm great, Kathleen. How are you, mate? You've just moved. I'm going to Alaska next week. Lovely. That's so cool. And we got Kirsty. Hey, Kirsty. I completely missed you there, mate. How are you, Kirsty? So, guys, 15 minutes, and Susan, High Country Homestead, is going live. Can someone put the link to Susan's chat, to her live in the chat, so that way people can go there? Last minute unexpected trip, Shannon says. Excellent. Alaska sounds amazing. One of our friends in the chat is Katie. She lives in Alaska, and mate, her content is amazing. And it's still snowing up there. It's going to be freezing. I'm a horrible singer, but I still sing. Oh, no, so I'm a horrible dancer, and I still dance too. But I need to know the words. If someone puts the words there, I'll sing it. So, guys, I just came, I was just talking about picnics, right? My spilling the tea this morning was a travel story about picnics in Germany and in France. And then I kind of circled round and said, there's nothing stopping us having picnics at home. Like, I have picnics at home in Australia, and then I paint, I have cups of tea, I have a picnic blanket in my car. Okay, Kirsty's put the link for Susan. So Susan from High Country Homestead is going to be live in 14 minutes, guys. And you guys should go there because she'll be over in the chat now because my client's coming. So see you guys. And Debbie Sue, picnic, Zoom, let's go. Hey, how you going?
Good.